Former Denver Broncos just had an amazing opportunity drop directly in their lap. If they don't cash in on it, what does it mean? We have more evidence that the NFL and just the sports media hype train can get way ahead of itself. More evidence that we dodged a bullet by not signing Stephon Diggs to that $70 million deal. We've got so much to break down. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me in the algorithm out a ton if you like the Broncos, if you would like and subscribe. So amazing opportunity here that the New England Patriots just cut their former captain, an absolute game wrecker and a great leader on and off the field. That is linebacker Ja'Whaun Bentley. Now, we know that this was a position that we already massively upgraded this season by going out and getting Dre Greenlaw. But the fact that he is back out there are still a lot of people in Broncos country who have serious questions about, can Singleton stay healthy? Even if healthy, like is he up to the task? Is he a suitable pair next to Dre Greenlaw? So I think this could be an incredible opportunity for the Broncos to go out and get a guy who is definitely in the Sean Payton mold, part of the same Belichick, Sean Payton, Bill Parcells coaching tree. I reached out to my friend who's a massive Patriots fan, and he basically said, everyone was shocked because of the talent out there. He is coming off a torn pectoral, but he's only 28 years old, and when he is healthy, he is an absolute game wrecker. But basically, they were saying once the Patriots moved on from Bill Belichick into Mike Vrabel, that it's a different style they want, and they also feel that at linebacker, they are absolutely stacked. And so what we see here from Zach Sager is like, hey, man, let's give Bentley a look. We see same thing, Sarah Bettinger being like, hey, pair him up with Dre Greenlaw. But we see like an adequate defender here in zone coverage, being able to swat down passes and kind of guard the slant there. But I think what he is most known for, and you see him there guarding the tight end there in zone coverage again, but what he is most known for is his ability to be a downhill run stuffer like this. Stopping Dak Prescott there on a quarterback sneak. There's a sick hit here in a second that he does on Jalen Hurts. So I love the idea of having just a whole stable of linebackers. Like last year, we talked about the platoon of outside edge rushers that we had, and that was what kind of fueled our defensive success. I think bringing him in, and then all of a sudden you go from last year where we are playing Quan Alexander and Justin Stranad in the playoffs. I guess we cut Quan Alexander, didn't sign him to the active roster, but we were on options C, D, E when it came to that inside linebacker. So now if all of a sudden you go Dre Greenlaw and Ja'Whaun Bentley, like this could be a wild upgrade. Now, if the Broncos make a move there, I think it is because, they want to have a stable there. If they decide to forego that and just roll with who we have, I think it is a huge showing of confidence that Sean Payton has in Singleton to bounce back from that injury, or Drew Sanders to step up, or we got to remember that the undrafted free agent that Sean Payton kept over Samaje Perine, over Tim Patrick, like over a bunch of guys who got cut we weren't expecting, was Lavelle Bailey. And remember that Sean Payton was the only head coach to call him during the draft and be like, come to Denver, and not just call him once, but call him twice. So does Sean Payton feel like he has what he needs there at inside linebacker, or does bringing in a Bentley sound pretty cool? I've never actually been in a Bentley, but it sounds pretty sick. Other interesting pieces of news that we have here today is that the Broncos made a very strong showing and a very prominent absence at different pro days. So the NFL Combine was a little lackluster compared to normal because a lot of the top guys didn't run or didn't do certain combine drills, and so people are counting on their combine to see their 40 time and actually watch them work out. And the Broncos sent their running back coach to go watch Ashton Jeanty. And even though basically the entire NFL was at the Ohio State Pro Day, the Broncos were like notoriously absent. They didn't send a GM. They had nobody there. So what is that saying about the Broncos? We're hearing about Ibuka. We're hearing about like a ton of Ohio State talent that people here are like, get him. The Broncos weren't even there, but they sent their top running back coach to go watch Ashton Jeanty. And his workout looked unreal. He's got muscles I don't know if I've ever even seen before, and it's not just the underwear Olympics there. We've seen the numbers the stats that he put up in game were absolutely unreal. And truly, when you hear about a generational running back, I push back on that generational term because we heard it so much about Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida. We heard it all the time about Trevor Lawrence, who you'd take Bo Nix over Trevor Lawrence today. I heard all the time about Caleb Williams, and Bo Nix outplayed him. So I don't want to overhype that term generational. But with his last year, of production in 14 games to get the ball 400 times, account for almost 3,000 yards of offense, and then 30 touchdowns in this type of body, could be absolutely wild. And you're now hearing hey, he's a top 5 pick. I think that is a really rich pick to give a running back a top 5, but you could truly see it happen. And the Broncos, are going to be either trying to tackle this dude or having him in Denver. So it's going to be an absolutely wild ride to watch out there. So let me know, what were your thoughts after seeing how, do we read into the Broncos not going to the Ohio State Pro Day? Do we read into who they sent to Ashton Jeanty? Is a trade up even in order there? So let me know what you think in the comments. So we talked about a couple days ago how I thought the Broncos dodged a major bullet because of the off-field issues of Stefon Diggs. Now, Stefon Diggs has assured the New England Patriots that he's going to be ready to go by week 1 of the season. But what's interesting to me is that a younger receiver, 4 years younger than Stefon Diggs, who injured his knee, the exact same injury a week before Stefon Diggs, Brandon Ayuk injured his ACL, blew out his ACL week 7. Stefon Diggs did it week 8, and he's 4 years older than Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk, his doctor said he's very pleased with how the ACL reconstruction is going and that he thinks he'll be ready to go by mid-season. So all of a sudden, Stefon Diggs is yeah, I'll be ready to go week 1, start of the season. I think that is an absolute pipe dream. Do not envision that happening. I think ACL injuries, especially for an explosion, if you're an offensive lineman and you aren't moving far, you're going to be good to go. But as we saw with Jamal Murray and time again, a 31-year-old receiver, he's not going to be ready to go. And so you're giving $70 million, $26 million guaranteed to Stefon Diggs and counting a lot on him being there from the start to try to help elevate Drake May's ceiling. And I think the Broncos really dodged a bullet there when it comes to injury. And I think the fact that we're seeing Brandon Ayuk with one of the top rehab doctors in the country saying that is proof that the Broncos are in good shape. Last piece of news here, and stick with me because it's not directly tied to the NFL, but it definitely is there are these sports narratives that creep in that you hear talking heads on ESPN who just piece together little pieces of articles. They don't actually follow any team in depth. They all but guaranteed us that Coach Prime was going to be coaching in Dallas or coaching the Vegas Raiders. Well, Coach Prime just re-signed a 5-year deal with your Colorado Buffaloes. Actually, there's probably some CSU Rammies or elsewhere, but regardless, the fact of the matter is that the NFL narrative was that Coach Prime was coming to the NFL, and everyone who actually covered CU and watched things, people that I've followed forever, RK at DNVR, all of them were dude, there is zero chance that that's going to happen. When you actually study a team and you study their moves, you got to look at it objectively, and sometimes you can end up drinking the orange and blue Kool-Aid. But I think it's important as we see the over-unders come out and the predictions that the Broncos are going to be the 3rd best team in the AFC West next year, and that they're going to be a game under the Chargers and will probably miss the playoffs. If you look at the ESPN over-under, they have the Broncos missing the playoffs. But you got to actually look at the actual facts, and the actual facts were the Denver Broncos were a doinked field goal away from being tied at halftime in the playoffs with the Buffalo Bills. That Bo Nix and Troy Franklin hooked up finally at the end of the year in the playoffs, and that Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims and Devon Vele are just going to take a step forward. You got to look at the facts that the Denver Broncos with Justin Stranad and Quan Alexander and a bunch of people we didn't even know going into the season were the 3rd best defense in the league, and they replaced the only holes on defense with 2 All-Pros and Pro Bowlers and guys who've played in the Super Bowl. You got to look at the facts that our only offensive hole, that the missing weapon, was a tight end, and Sean Payton went out and got one of the best in the league in Evan Ingram. And so I am overly hyped about what we have going for us next year. The playoffs are inbound because we saw this graphic get kind of tweeted out, one of these advanced analytics. The fact is, Courtland Sutton has one of the highest EPAs when he's in man coverage of anybody, and he's going to see a ton of man coverage next year because we now have a tight end who's going to draw zone coverage and just eat up zone coverage. And you got to look at, this graphic that NFL or Fox tweeted out here, which went through and said who are the best picks at each one of these picks in NFL history over the past 10 years. And you're seeing the best ever 9th pick in the NFL draft was Patrick Surtain. My guess is that we're going to see the 12th, if this went all the way to 32, you would see at number 12, I bet you Bo Nix's face is going to be the best 12th pick in the NFL draft in NFL history. And I bet you when Sean Payton is done looking at this NFL draft, that whoever we get at 20, you're going to see on a graphic just like this, because the future is wildly bright for your Denver Broncos. We are going to be a deep out in next year's playoffs, so clear your end of January, beginning of February calendar, because we're going to be in it together. In Broncos country, we got a ton to Bo-LIEVE in.